I think we'll get started. Just we're a couple minutes past 4 o'clock here, and wanted to welcome everybody to the first of our um, zones 25B, 29, or region 36, depending on how you want to look at it, public image webinars. My name is Kyle Haugen. I'm our Rotary Public Image Coordinator for the two zones, which our two zones encompass 23 districts from northern Minnesota into Canada through the Dakotas and all the way down to Texas as well. So pretty much the full swath of the middle of the United States without Missouri and Oklahoma, but the rest of them, that's us. So, and we're doing these webinars. We're excited about this. It's a way to have regular contact with all the people throughout our zones and to deliver information that is useful and topical, and it also allows us to go deeper into certain topics than if we were trying to do this all as an information dump at a training session. And also this way, more people are able to participate than if we just had it at a training session as well. Each month, our webinars will do a couple of things. We'll share examples of how public image works together with membership in the Rotary Foundation to increase success in all areas of Rotary. We'll showcase a best practice that one of our district public image teams is using that you can borrow, and then have a deeper dive into a topic as well, along with some Q&A time at the end. You've met me as the Rotary Public Image Team leader, but we also have a full team of people on our public image team in our two zones, and you can see that on the screen here. There are essentially 8 assistants plus myself, and our job is to support all of the clubs and districts and all of the things that you do when it comes to public image, when it comes to telling our story and Rotary and providing resources as such as well. I'm not going to bother showing, well, I'll do this now. Here is, we talked about how we're going to do these webinars monthly. And here are the next, just so you can save the date. Each of these will be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But next month, since Rotary Foundation Month is in November, we figured it would be a good time to showcase how to use the People of Action templates and the Brand Center as it relates to promoting Rotary Foundation projects. And then in November, talking about some social media best practices. And then, of course, we wanted to have a little bit of fun in December. So we'll just have more of a holiday party. Don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but I can tell you that we have a lot of creative folks on our team that will make that a lot of fun. And then in January, kind of kicking off the new year, is talking about how to effectively communicate with the media. So before we go into our first part of the topics, I wanted to make a couple of just reminders on the calendar or some announcements. For those of you that are public image chairs in your districts or in the district governor line, at our zone training event last week, we talked about our resource library and the awards program that we're doing, and those are now on the zone website. So if anybody wants to ever check out any best practices and different resources from the public image line of things, we're putting them all in one place on our zone website, which is zones 25B-29.org. And if you click on the public image part of things, it'll lead you right to that resource page, and the awards have their own page there as well. But we're trying to put as much information as we can that is not only useful to you, but easily accessible in one place, rather than trying to figure out which website or where that all is. So check those out, and some upcoming things on the Rotary calendar. Obviously, October 24th is World Polio Day, which it is every year, and we'll be covering that more during the rest of the webinar here. And then November, as I mentioned a minute ago, is Rotary Foundation Month. So now is a good time to have a conversation. Thanks, Justin. Now is a good time to have a conversation with both your district Rotary Foundation team, or if you're a club public image person, with your with your club, Rotary Foundation team, to put together plans on how to effectively promote Rotary Foundation Month and the importance of giving to the foundation and grants participation. And a hint, focus on the why. It'll engage more people that way. Don't worry about the nuts and bolts of how the Rotary Foundation works. Showcase the impact that we make, and your members will want to give more from that perspective because they understand where their dollars are going. Now we'll get started with the rest of everything here. And before I do, I'd like to mention that we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions along the way for any of our presenters, go ahead and message me in the chat box, and I'll kind of keep a line of them and coordinate at the end. And also, I think you got the reminder at the beginning of the session, but we are recording this. So not only will we have the full webinar in our resource library, but we'll have each segment as its own recording in case there's one specific thing you want to do. With that, a couple of introductions here so far. A couple of our assistants are on the call are on the webinar with us today. One is Sean Berry, who is out of the Minneapolis Twin Cities area. He's handling the tech for us today. And then Stephen Smutney, who's one of our assistants from the Chicago area, and you'll be hearing from him in a minute. Scott McLaughlin, who is one of our other assistants, was supposed to be here, but I'm not seeing him yet, and I haven't heard from him. So I will do that part of things. But the first feature that we want to do monthly is to talk about the importance of, I'll call it one Rotary. Not my term, but it's a term I like to use, which shows how Rotary is most effective when public image, membership, and the Rotary Foundation are working together, and the key role that public image plays in maximizing our impact. The North Platte Rotary Club is doing a project in Kenya, and I think this really does show effectively how when public image got involved, not only was the project able to be more successful because of more participation, but maybe a couple members joined as well. So I'd like to introduce the district governor down there, Bob Maber in District 5630, and Dr. Kim Baxter, who has been part of that program as well, to take it away from here. So Bob, I saw you unmute yourself, so I'm thinking you're going first.
Yes, I am Bob Maber from 5630, and very honored today to present to you folks. And basically, I'm going to run the PowerPoint, and Dr. Kim Baxter, who has been running this project from its inception a few years ago, is going to talk. So I believe we have about 10 minutes. Is that correct, Kyle?
Yes, indeed. Yep. And I just made you a co-host, and Scott's just joining us, so he'll be able to chime in at the end as well.
Okay. Well, let's see if everybody, is everybody seeing my screen now? All right. Well, Dr. Baxter, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us to speak today. I'm going to try to talk really fast, which is not my forte, as Bob knows, but there's a lot to tell about this project, and I'm cutting out a lot of it. Bob just wants me to run with it, and to usually he and I kind of tag team this, but he wants me to just go ahead and run with it today. So I'm an optometrist here in North Platte, Nebraska. Been a Rotarian since being in practice 41 years. So my dad was a district governor, and I'm definitely a big believer in Rotary. So as an optometrist, one of the ways I've figured out I can best give back to humanity is through taking VOSH trips, Volunteer Optometric Services to Humanity, that stands for. Every state has their own chapter. Our Nebraska chapter has been to a lot of different Latin American and Caribbean countries. What we do is we provide just very abbreviated eye exams, refractions, that then we try to match patients up with the closest pair of donated eyeglasses we have in our inventory. So I've done a lot of this over the years. I've been able to involve our two kids, my wife Nancy and I, our son Craig and daughter Michaela, that have been with me on a number of these trips. So about 9.5 years ago, I found I was looking for a trip that I could take my kids on during their Christmas break at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And I found a group out of Iowa that was going to Kenya. And so I joined up with them. My son Craig came along. He had been working as an optician's assistant at an eye care office in Lincoln, Nebraska, and had enough experience where he was very valuable to the team on that trip. So we went to Kenya, as Bob's pointing out there, actually Western Kenya, right close to Lake Victoria. It's the village where we spend most of our time is called Shikunga, and it's nearby a village of about 2 million called Kakamega. So Bob's going to rifle. That was the group that went on that original trip. Craig and myself are in the background there in the middle on the back row. And this was a very memorable trip in a lot of ways, special. Every trip is special in its own way, but we got ready to leave, and Craig said to me, said, "Dad, we got to come back here. These people really need us." And I said, I promised him we would. Craig was getting ready to start optometry school. And I said, especially when you're done with school and we're in practice together, we'll come here again and try to see what else we can do besides eye care, maybe to help these people. So that's kind of how our connection started. There's a little building where we did some of our eye care work there in the village. So we do estimates of their correction, little handheld autorefractor there. You see one of the leader of our team, Dr. Ralph DeHaan. And there's myself estimating correction with a very simple bit of equipment that we have to do that besides the autorefractor. So we would determine their correction, and then volunteers. Craig helped a lot with trying to find the closest pair of eyeglasses to match them up with. So in conjunction, there you see Craig looking for some glasses, and then a couple other shots Bob will show of Craig dispensing glasses to different patients there. In conjunction with that trip, we found out that the village was badly in need of a water storage tank. They had a well and they had electricity and a pump. So I had a means of pumping water out of the borehole, but no way to store the water. So our club and another club here in town bought them a water storage tank. Otherwise, they'd hauling their water in by hand from 5 miles away. So you'll see a picture of a lady. There were a lot of orphans in the village. A few shots you see of them, and Craig, the orphan boys, just really bonded with Craig. He spent time playing with him, and they loved him. And so you see the water that they were getting out of the ravine and hauling it up. And so we got the water storage tank for them. And a few years after that, the borehole dried up due to drought. And with money from a memorial fund for my son, we were able to purchase or have a professional well drilled that has been a lifeblood of that village since then. So there's a shot of the well, or the faucet for the well, and a few other storage tanks besides the original water storage tank we bought. So there've been other. We were setting out about 5, maybe 4 years ago. Actually, no, I'm going to say 6 years ago, to do a global grant project in that area. We wanted to build a medical clinic in that village, and we got a ways into it and found out that wasn't going to fly because we couldn't prove long-term sustainability that's required of the global grants. And so we asked the people from the Rotary Club that we were connected with on biweekly Zoom conferences. We asked them and a few of the people from the Ministry of Health who had also been joining us on the Zoom calls, what else is a critical need in your area that we could address with a global grant? And they said their hospital in Kakamega, which actually served in total over 4 million people, had one or at the most maybe 2 functioning incubators. So they had a horrible problem with the mortality rate for newborns was 6 times higher than in the US, and for expectant mothers was 30 times higher. So we set out to do a grant, and actually it morphed into a much bigger grant than it would have been to build the medical clinic. This was $136,000 global grant. We got $80,000 of which to purchase equipment. You can go ahead on through some of the other slides there. There's a shot of them. The mothers lining up with their babies for a chance to put their baby in an incubator along with 2 other babies. So they put 3 babies in the incubator at the same time for a limited time. So that shows you the desperation that existed there with that situation. There's some shots of the hospital building itself prior to the project. The government ended up partnering with us to the tune of $60,000 to renovate the structure of the building. The grant itself was $80,000 to buy new equipment. There's how they were getting their water. The water facilities have been improved greatly through the money that's been channeled in from the government associated with the grant. So it was a horrible situation there in the maternity wing of that hospital in Kakamega. And of the grant money, $80,000 was to purchase new equipment. The other $56,000 was to finance a team of doctors to travel from the U.S. to their hospital to train the doctors and nurses there with the new equipment and new birthing techniques and whatnot. So here's Alice Atano, who was the president of the Kakamega Rotary Club, doing a special event, fundraising event they did to raise money within their club for the project. And then the lady, Alinda, standing next to her was from Vancouver, but she spent half of her year in Kakamega and was a vital member of that club. So then there's some of the equipment we purchased. So the team that went there to train them was from Johns Hopkins University. I'll tell you more about them in a second. There's some of the new, you saw the renovation being done in the building. There's the team that went from Johns Hopkins, one lady from University of Nebraska College of Nursing in Kearney was part of the team. The rest of them from Johns Hopkins. The way we connected with them was a miracle of God. I could tell you a lot about this project with divine intervention that's allowed it to happen. A lot of it involves my son, Craig. And here you see the team giving instruction to the doctors and nurses at the hospital in the renovated portion of the hospital done by the government. So they had baby mannequins, the Johns Hopkins people brought, artificial uteruses, the same equipment they used to train right there, artificial uterus to train their residents at Johns Hopkins. They brought that equipment along to train these people, then left the equipment there so they could continue training others. Johns Hopkins donated all that. So they were another partner with us, as well as several Rotary clubs and several Rotary districts. So there you see the governor speaking at a media event to dedicate the new wing of the maternity wing of the hospital and their new equipment. While he was there, he said he'd been so inspired by what he'd seen Rotary do there, that he was committed now to making healthcare a top priority in his administration and his budget. And by the time we went back there a year ago, February, to see the progress of this grant, Bob and I toured that hospital, and there you see us touring the hospital. You'll see the new incubators and all the new equipment. And we walked around the hospital, and the whole thing is renovated, and asked the hospital administrator, what the heck happened here? He said the governor actually followed through with his promise, and he donated or allocated another $2 million to renovate the rest of the hospital, because he said, this is beautiful, this maternity wing. Why shouldn't the rest of our hospital be as nice as this? So he did that. And then also they're well underway of construction of a brand new hospital right adjacent to it This is a level 5 hospital where we were. This new one's going to be a level 6, one of 4 level 6 hospitals in Kenya. They think it'll be the number 1 or number 2 hospital in Kenya when it's completed. And that's another thing the governor has decided to do. The hospital administrator told us that Rotary provided the spark for all of this. He said, if you guys hadn't been here, if you hadn't done this project, none of this would be happening right now. So it's incredible just how it's unfolded, and it just continues to amaze all of us. I got a couple shots in here of a few of Alice's schools, who was the president of the Rotary Club there. She's got 3 schools with about 1,000 kids altogether. Half of them are orphans, and they had a school and boarding house, one of the 3 that burned down just about 6 months ago. So they're desperately trying to rebuild there. So we've had, we linked up. I was invited to speak at a Rotary Club in Florida, and a couple clubs from that district decided to do a global grant to provide new boys and girls environmentally efficient and environmentally friendly bathrooms for the kids in 2 of the 3 schools. We bought a couple milk cows with some extra funds we had from donors, and they're starting to build a herd there in the village of Shikunga, where Craig and I were for the eye care. Also a fish farm, $2,000. We invested in that, and they had their first big harvest of fish about 6 months ago or so, and big deal in the village. Many of the orphans there had never ever had fish, so they've got fresh milk and fresh fish. And here's a shot of my son Craig. The leader of the village of Shikunga, we're almost done here, but the leader of the village of Shikunga, Pastor Malaho, had for many years had a dream of eventually having a medical clinic built in their village. And like I say, we had to abandon that effort with the global grant because the people there have no money to be able to pay for any medical services. And so we couldn't point to an income stream that could prove the long-term sustainability of a project like that. So we took a different approach, but my son Craig passed away. Sorry, 5.5 years ago, just about 3 months before he graduated from optometry school. And a lot of this is inspired by his memory. A lot of things have happened that strangely relate to him with the global grant. And now when he passed away, Pastor Malaho started referring to the clinic as a dream of someday, hopefully he would that this would someday happen. He started calling it the Craig Memorial Cottage Hospital. Now it's called the Craig Memorial Rotary Clinic because Rotary has had so much to do with it. But what we've done, and this is one of the main things I know he wanted us to talk about, was that we kind of took a different approach to, since we couldn't get a global grant, we got several of the clubs in our district to partner with us, their district grant funds. Because a lot of these clubs, they never get around, as you well know, all of you on this call, a lot of clubs don't get around to applying for district grants, and their district grant money, their DDF just kicked back to Rotary Foundation. So they lose it or they lose it. And we thought, let's get a hold of some of those clubs and see if they just want to partner with us. And at first nothing was happening, and then it just broke loose. And for the first year, last year, we got, I think, 10 clubs for about $10,000. And then this year, now we've got 15 clubs. A lot of the same ones came back, and all they had to do is just tell us they wanted to be part of the project with us, because we said, we'll apply, we'll take care of applying for the grant. And you just tell us you want to be part of it, and we'll put your name down. You pay your 25% cash of the DDF that you have to contribute. You have to pay 25% of that in cash from your club. And as long as you're willing to do that, then you can partner with us. And so it makes it it's been very easy and streamlined for them to jump on board. And okay, so we got probably 15 clubs and probably $15,000 to $20,000 coming in this year. Many of other individuals, doctors who had been I'd spoke to some doctors about eventually going there to provide services. These were people that I knew, but also that knew my son Craig. And in total, now there have been 5 doctors and their wives who've each donated $5,000 a piece to the project. So we have raised, with other individual donors, we've raised over $70,000. And you'll see some photos of the clinic well under construction. They're putting the roof on right now, and I don't have any shots of that. There's the groundbreaking ceremony. And the clinic is, we have a floor plan, I think, of it at about, I don't know that you can, that's the external, maybe there's a floor plan. I hope I put a floor plan in there. No, guess not. Anyway, several exam rooms, a lab for lab work, X-ray. The X-ray department is probably going to be built outside of the actual clinic itself due to the necessary steps needed to protect people from radiation. So there you see some of the work being done. And the slab being built there. There's a couple shots here, I think, of the walls going up. So it's well underway, and we have enough money. We think it's costing more than we figured, like everything around the world is, with material costs going up due to COVID issues and whatnot. But we think we can get it built for probably the $70,000 that we have raised. Then we'll begin raising funds for the for equipment for the clinic. And our idea is to have clinic, have medical team missionaries of various specialties rotating through that clinic periodically. Due to the project we did at the nearby Kakamega County Hospital, 35 kilometers away, the hospital administrator has vowed to partner with us and to help provide continuity of care. There's a nearby medical school, and some of the medical students will likely be rotating through that clinic to help provide services. And we're going to have more major surgeries done at the hospital, and arrange to have people from the village and surrounding areas transported there for cataract surgeries and other more major surgeries. So we hope a lot of good is going to happen, and people from the village and a large surrounding area are very excited about seeing their medical services become available to them. Another thing I thought I'd mention before closing is, a lot of these clubs that have partnered with us, they're smaller clubs and they don't really have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of DDF, and they're struggling with their membership. Their members are aging and they're having trouble getting younger members in. I think these young people are particularly enthused about international service, and it's a good way to connect with them and draw them into Rotary. Our own club, Bob and myself belong to a club that's got a lot of young, vibrant members. And these smaller clubs, when they partner with us on these things, we're encouraging them to get media coverage on that in their area, so that everybody knows that they're involved in something big in a different part of the world where it's really needed. And it kind of helps to tell the Rotary story to the media, and in a way that these small clubs would otherwise have a hard time rising above the radar, to get much recognition from the public or from media. So I think that's about it. I hope I didn't run too much over the 10 minutes I've been. Probably did. I apologize for running long.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Kim,
Scott,
thank
you want to provide a couple comments there?
Yeah, just a couple comments to wrap things up here. That was a long way to get there, but I think it's very, very helpful for you guys to see that in this case, where we had a project that morphed into many projects, bigger projects, that it also helped to engage other clubs to get involved in something that they either had never done before in the case of a grant, an international project. It gave members in those clubs purpose. To a person, those people will tell you that they've been involved with an international project in Kenya when none of them have ever gone there, but they take ownership in that. And so from that standpoint, it's been very, very good for our district bonding together as a group of clubs and members within the club being able to participate in something that they probably would have never thought of doing had Kim not gone out and invited them to be a part of this project in the early days. So Kim, thank you very much. Great project, great synergy, and something that I would encourage all of you to think about in the bigger scope of things. When you start looking for partners on projects, think about your other clubs in the district. Most of the time we don't do that. We look outside of the district. But in this case, one of the things that I wanted to mention was that because of the rules with the Rotary Foundation not being able to build buildings was part of the reason that we took this into the district grant realm so that we could do some things that we couldn't necessarily do with TRF money with a global grant. So this gave us some flexibility to do some things with people making personal contributions and finding outside investors to be able to build part of the building where the TRF funds weren't being used for them. So thank you, Kim. It's good to see you too.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad you're on this, Scott. You had so much to do with all this and wouldn't have happened without you.
Thanks, guys. We're going to move on here, and I'm going to introduce Stephen in a second. But Kim, I got a question. Just if you could share your contact information in the chat box. Somebody wants to be connected to another optometrist. So if you could do that, or Bob or Scott, if you could do that, that'd be great. We will move on to Stephen Smutney as talking a little best practice showcase here. So Stephen, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Kyle. So as Kyle mentioned, every month we'd like to showcase or feature one of our districts and some of the wonderful public image work that they are doing. This month, we're going to ask Melissa McCormick from District 6420 to share some strategies that she's put into practice for hitting the ground running. She has built a fantastic team and organized them in a very creative way. So I will turn it over to Melissa. Melissa.
All right. Good morning, or good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope it's not morning. Dr. Kim, I think that was very, very impactful. Thank you so much for sharing. So I'm going to scoot over to more of a just strategy and Excel spreadsheets. So bear with me for a little bit. Both Kyle and Stephen had asked me to share how I've been creating our public image program in District 6420. I want to give you a little bit of a backstory. We haven't had a public image chair for the last several years. So when our district governor came in June or July, he knows the power of One Rotary. So he reached out to me and had asked if I would take that role. We had a Facebook page, we had a Club Runner website. It was very, it still is, very independent of each other. We do not have a lot of collaboration in there, but we're working on it. And at the same time, our newsletter editor decided that she didn't want to do that anymore. And so, yay, I took the position, and we put the newsletter on hold, which caused a lot of angst and probably some disappointment for some people. But we really needed to know how I started this, not knowing really anything. I wanted to be sure that we were serving, that the Public Image Committee, first of all, that we had one, and second of all, that we were serving our club members. So I started with sending 2 surveys. I sent one survey, and these went to the club members. They didn't go to just the presidents. I wanted to understand what the club members' thoughts were about communication. So the tone of the the surveys was upbeat, it was fun, but it was more about interested in what their feedback was with regards to communication. How often do you want to hear it? What do you want to hear about? Do you not want to hear anything? Are you reading? All of those things. Putting a newsletter together, as probably everybody on this call knows, it takes a lot of time. So if it's not valuable, I don't want to do it. So we started out with the communication survey, and then I followed it up a couple weeks later with a public image survey, which was asking what their expectations were of us and also asking for volunteers. I was really pleasantly surprised. We had 14 people that, raised their hand and said, I may want to be on the committee, I may not, depending on, time commitments, etc. But I took the opportunity to speak to every one of those people, and and I would recommend this for anybody who is anybody who's either a Rotarian or in a position of leadership. Talk to the club members and just one-on-one. I had some great conversations. I learned a lot. And then also the basic reason for the discussion was what are your interests with regards to public image? What are your skill sets? All of that. And then I got a commitment from them. Yes, I do want to be on the committee, or I only want to be a resource, kind of ad hoc type of relationship. So once I went through all that, which took probably about 2-3 weeks, then I developed an organizational chart. And I didn't really know where to start when it came with the strategic vision. So what's the strategic vision of District 6420's Public Image Committee? I really did not know where to start. So at that same time, talk about a God moment, at that same time, Kyle and his team had rolled out the Rotary Public Image, the awards program, that citation program, which to me, I come from corporate America. And if somebody is trying to change behavior, they end up putting awards program together. So I thought, okay, cool. This is what Rotary Public Image wants us to focus on. So I'm going to take that I turned it into a scorecard and then focused in those areas that they had on that program. And voila, my strategy was there. It was it was fantastic timing, and I really, really appreciated it very much. I then took those people that I'd interviewed and I kind of plugged them into spots. So Kyle, thank you. Right now we will kind of go, I'm just gonna close that out. This is the scorecard that I created. I just took the exact public image citation and put it into categories, and you'll see category 1, public image team makeup. So we're supposed to hopefully complete 3 of those in a year in each category. That's a really high, that's a big ask, but that's what the rules are. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose 3 of those. And then I've asked each, so this is a template. So I've asked each person who's responsible for brand consistency or the district social media usage, all of that. I've asked them to choose what are their top 3 in priority order. And then we will use this scorecard. You can scroll down just a little bit. We'll keep going till we get the red, yellow. Yeah, so I'm really big on red, yellow, green. And this is how I will track our progress. So we have monthly meetings starting in October, and we will then be going through this scorecard. Will be part of our meeting agenda to see how we're tracking. And if we're not tracking or something hasn't started yet, then let's talk about, should we do it? Can somebody else help, et cetera, et cetera. So this is where I'm at with the scorecard that helps us keep focused on our strategy. And then in the second tab, you'll see the organization chart thank you. So we've got the DPI chair at the top, and then I have them divided into segments. So we've got digital media, which encompasses the website and our social media. And then we have traditional media, and that's going to be your radio, your TV, your newspapers, that type of media. And then district to club communication. That really is the newsletter. I really have trouble with the word newsletter. But that is going to be whatever vehicle that looks like to communicate to our districts that is under this section. And I also have identified some folks who are into article writing. That's one of their skill sets. So that all groups together. And then we move over to the brand management. We've got graphic designs and we've got training. So training to me is really big. When I did a very quick kind of cursory look at how many of our clubs have public image chairs, we have 44 clubs. We have about 22 that have official public image chairs. I'm sure there's probably more, or some of those clubs just put a name in. You know, they're small clubs and whatever, and the district wanted a name, so here's a name. So training is going to be huge. Through my discussions in these interviews, I have a couple people that I consider to be absolute ambassadors. I mean, I know we all are, but these two people just rise above, and I want them to be out more in our district and just really promoting exactly what Kyle said. When it comes to One Rotary and the foundation, we need to be promoting the why and not the what. So that's where these folks will come in. So I have 3 or 4 people who will also be presenters, trainers. I don't have exactly where they will land, but they all are very well versed in Rotary and have been around for a while. So that's awesome. And then from a strategic standpoint, I have a planning committee. So that was important to me. I've got 3 or 4 people that have been around the block, either at Rotary or in some other walk of their life. And I really appreciate their advice and counsel and outlook on things. And so those folks fall under the planning committee. So I shared this with my dear friend Stephen, and he said, "Hey, Melissa, will you please share this with our district friends?" And so that's where I'm at right now. If you asked me, okay, super, so you've got your committee together, but what's happening? I will tell you, this was introduced to everybody 2 weeks ago. And from a priority standpoint, my first action is really to get communication back to the clubs, because we have not communicated with the clubs since June in a newsletter type fashion. And so that's what we're trying to figure out is what does the newsletter, what does that communication look like? And so it's been kind of slow, but we're plugging away, and I'm trying hard to build some momentum. Our first official meeting is going to be in October, so I have a sneaking suspicion that folks have relaxed a little bit because the meeting's not until October. But anyway, that's where we're at. And Kyle's got this, and Stephen, I don't remember if I sent you the actual template, but this is to share with all of you if you're interested in it. If you've got feedback for me on how to make it better, or if I'm missing something, please tell me, because I'm like, I haven't done this before. So here we go.
Thanks, Melissa. And I was going to say, if you are interested in getting this, you can contact Kyle or your assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator, and they will share that. Melissa, it was excellent. Awesome. And I'm so glad that you could share today. Thank you. Since we have a wonderful structure now, it's an interesting time to put things into place for October and World Polio Day. So I'm going to turn it over to Kyle, where he's going to give a deep dive into World Polio. Kyle?
Thanks, Stephen. And thanks, Melissa, as well. Yeah, when Stephen sent me that originally, I'm like, ooh, we need to tell people about this. And I will send it out in a follow-up in the next couple of days for everybody as well. So so we want to do a deep dive each month to give you a little bit more training than if we just try to dump all this stuff to you in an information dump during a bigger training. So the first one, because it's September and because World Polio Day is October 24th, we thought it'd be good to talk about how to effectively promote World Polio Day. So with us today is one of our interim Zone 29 and Polio Now coordinators, Bob McLean, but the other one in Zone 29, Bob Taylor, is also with us, but Bob will give us a little bit of a talk about why our efforts in polio eradication are still important and give a brief polio update. Then Stephen will go through the the World Polio Day toolkit that has been put together, and Scott will show a little bit of how to register your club's participation in World Polio Day, and we'll finish up with a little bit of a couple tips and tricks on how to easily promote and implement events, and what you and your districts or clubs should do to engage your clubs or members. So with that, Bob, it's up to you. You should be able to share your screen, and away we go.
There we go. If I move this out of the way. Uh-oh. How's that?
Perfect.
So first, I want to thank Kyle for the opportunity to participate. This is really wonderful to see the type of collaboration that we have between foundation membership and public image. In the past, I don't know that we've had as much communication with each other, but if this is the new norm, I love it because there's so much that is intertwined between all three. So thank you, Kyle, so much for the opportunity. Our team is, as Kyle mentioned, Tim Murphy is the Zone 29 coordinator. He's on medical leave right now. And Bob Taylor and I are the interim coordinators for Zone 29. Ron Walls is the coordinator for Zone 25B. So Kyle asked two things, one to give an update, but also then what is the why? And I agree wholeheartedly with Kyle, start with why. So much like Simon Simic probably borrowed that from Kyle, but starting with the why. Why did Rotary start this worldwide effort? One, it needed to be done across the world to save lives. Rotary proved that it was achievable. It's a great investment for a healthier world, and it created the infrastructure to eliminate any diseases. And very important, why is it still Rotary's #1 priority? And as Bob Taylor has shared in his presentations, it's worth repeating. This is Rotary's #1 priority. This is Susie Howe, our Rotary International Director. Bob Taylor brought an iron lung to the Houston Zone Institute. And if you look at that device, just imagine what it must have been like to spend your life inside that chamber. Just a miserable way to live. So, this is a reason why this is still #1. Another important thing to recognize, though, is that until the last case is gone, polio is just a plane ride away. Until we are truly done with eradicating polio from the world, we are at risk the entire time, and just a plane ride away. So, why the Region 36 Public Image Team is so important. The presentations you've given already, frankly, are so impressive. I thought Dr. Baxter's story was so compelling, very heart-moving, and very informative. And Melissa, I love your organization. That's a great template for people to be able to follow. Public image is really what helps us get the word out. This is a direct quote from Susie Howe again. Our job is to put a human face behind what we're doing. And really that's public image's job. And it is vitally important. Thinking back again to Dr. Baxter's sharing, if we had only read about it, if it was just, a little journal, I don't think any of us would have been nearly as moved as with the story that he told. And so really your job is to help us put the human face on what we're doing as Rotarians to help eradicate polio from the world. Communication that's consistent, relevant, appropriately frequent. I'm guessing that Melissa has got that in her template. But also, as you were doing today, sharing testimonials and speakers. That's really important for us to be able to share the stories across the board. We've got great partners. In addition to Rotary, we've got the World Health Organization, UNICEF, CDC, Gavi the Vaccine Alliance, and the Gates Foundation, all partnering together on the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. So, an update. You've got the why. Here's the what. 2 cases of polio since January of 2021. We are literally down to 2 cases. Nothing in the wild polio has been reported up to this point. Now we've gone 4+ years with wild polio being eradicated from everywhere but those 2 countries. So we are definitely on the move. And as one of our cohorts has said, it's like 4th down in inches. We are getting so close to making this a reality. So these numbers are current as of September 22nd, when Bob and I had a meeting with the entire globe of and Polio Now coordinators. So this information is very current. One of the challenges that we have is the vaccine-derived polio cases. Back in August, there were 104 reported, and this is an issue. And so they have changed the vaccine that we're using so that it is not as, it can't be passed along through things like human waste, which is the primary way that the vaccine-derived polio has been acquired. Every year, there are millions of children born and millions of children that need to be vaccinated, not just in the United States, but literally around the world. And that's part of the effort that we have ongoing. Even though we say we're down to the last 2 cases, we are still millions of children away from being polio free until polio is eradicated from the world. So as a little bit of history, we've had 3 billion children that have received vaccines. 19 million people are walking each year that would have otherwise been paralyzed because of the work that we've done. Polio Plus has helped us with other vaccines that are for preventable diseases like measles. And in particular, as we've all kind of endured the COVID experience, our infrastructure and resources were actually used to help address COVID in the developing countries. And so our capacity to help beyond polio is there. Our new game plan, eradicating polio with 2 specific goals: permanently interrupt the transmission of all polio virus in Afghanistan and Pakistan. That means wild polio and vaccine-derived polio. Number 2, stop the transmission of the vaccine-derived polio everywhere, throughout the entire world. So those are our 2 key goals. Just 2 goals, huge effort that's involved. Major elements of the strategy: reestablish polio eradication as a public health emergency. I think for quite a while, polio, because we were doing so well and doing so much good, it sort of slipped in terms of attention. We need to make it a top priority for all governments and to hold them accountable for the progress that's being made. Improving community engagement. Again, public image, how important you all are in helping us raise the awareness, educate people about what polio is and how they can help make sure that this is eradicated from the entire world. And then balancing the capacity and decision-making. It's been interesting being part of the End Polio Now coordinating group, just realizing how many decisions are involved right down to the village level on how these vaccines get there. A timeline to achieve goal 1 and 2. Again, this fits right in Melissa's game plan. We have wider use of the novel oral polio vaccine for the type 2. That's to help eliminate any vaccine-derived polio. By 2023, we want to have accomplished the interruption of transmission of all wild polio. And that time frame is really important. And you'll see repeatedly, and hopefully this will become part of the brand that you'll help promote, is that by 2026, we want to be able to certify the world as polio free. To get there, we have to be, totally free of any new cases of wild polio. And then the clock starts for 3 years. You need 3 years where you haven't had any transmission of wild polio in order to certify an area being polio free. So 2026 counts on us being successful by 2023. Achieving the eradication, simple, not easy. Immunizing 400 million children a year, funding hundreds of thousands of polio workers. It's not just Rotary immunization days that makes this work. There are a lot of people on the ground in villages that are absolutely necessary to help us distribute the vaccines. And then intensifying the surveillance. This is very important in order to identify where vaccine-derived polio is located and then address it rapidly. There's a cost involved. Between now and 2026, we're looking at $5.2 billion to make this happen. Surveillance is going to be huge. If we identify outbreaks, being able to respond and respond quickly is critical. Integrated health services, vaccine supply. I mean, just imagine, we have it so easy to get a vaccine. Imagine going into the foothills of Afghanistan to try and get a vaccine. These are really challenging things. And then staffing, being able to get the teams of people to be able to do this. And I do want to add one comment. We heard on Tuesday from Mike McGovern that as challenged as we are to understand how the Taliban is going to operate within Afghanistan, the one thing Mike said is they're clearly committed to vaccines. They don't want their children to be struck with polio any more than we do. And so there may be a lot of things that really make us nervous about the Taliban. At least when it comes to vaccines, at the moment, it seems like they are on board with that. So in terms of dollars, here's how it breaks out. 19% of our vaccines, our dollars go to the vaccines, 3% to experts, only 1% to research. Getting the vaccines to the children, again, monumental task at 40%. Detecting, the surveillance part, 14%. But I thought it was really interesting, raising awareness. A quarter of our budget goes to raising awareness. And again, that's where you all come in. The importance of communication, the importance of you helping Rotarians understand, why this is important and what they can do to have an impact. So what we learned about polio giving in 2020-21, we had a fair percentage, almost 70% of districts across the world contributing their DDF. We had 42% of districts contributing 20% of their DDF to Polio Plus. That wasn't bad. Over half of the clubs around the world contributed something to polio. Of that, 5,000 clubs contributed $1,500 or more. One number that really alarmed me, frankly, is only 1 out of 5 Rotarians contribute to Polio Plus. That's 20% of all Rotarians. And that's where, again, as we message with the public image group, messaging not just to district leadership or even to club leadership, but being able to get that message all the way down to individual Rotarians. That makes a huge difference. And that's where we hope your messaging can help us. So there are primary goals that we have laid out. Certainly every district and club having a polio chair and goals. One of the goals would be, for example, DDF of 20.26% by World Polio Day. We'd love to see more districts giving their funds on the front end. In recent years, the vast majority of district designation comes towards the end of the year. And we'd like to see that as a priority rather than the tail end. Increasing the number of district clubs and Rotarians giving by 10%. Secure a major donor. That's a huge task. Again, social media, your public image group, vitally important to education, promotion, and raising awareness. Then community events. You'll be talking more about World Polio Day, October 21st, 4th. Huge day for Rotary. But the work that needs to be done between now and October 24th is vitally important. The creative ideas for raising awareness and raising funds. And then also World Immunization Week in April of 2022. Then, anything that your districts might have in mind, fun projects, interesting projects. Some are creating a Polio Plus Society. And there are a host of other things that districts can choose to do. One of the things that we are trying to remind people is that when you give dollars to polio, it's matched. So let's say that Scott has given $100 to polio. The Gates Foundation will match that $200. So there's a 2-to-1 match. And then on the DDF, the district designated funds, there's a 50 cents on the dollar match by the World Fund, the Rotary World Fund, and then Gates matches that part. So there's really interesting ways to leverage our dollars to make an impact. For club goals, Rotary suggests, $1,500. Another thing to consider is just every member giving at least $20.26. Again, 2026 is our big benchmark, and just getting people to think about that and understand we're just 5 years away, but we need everyone on board and engaged. Then the district goal for 20% DDF matched 50 cents on the dollar. Again, just to remind people, bump it up a little bit, 20.26% of DDF. So just to wrap up, imagine being unable to stop your child from being a victim. I don't think any of us could imagine what that would be like, and yet that's what people face every day across the world. So right now, again, we're down to the last 2 cases so far, but there's so much work that needs to be done to finish the job. So with that, I just say thank you for all you're doing. Love the organization that you have. I think it's great that you're doing monthly meetings. That's outstanding. And helping us get our message across is going to be vitally important. So thank you very much. Kyle, it's yours.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that update, and it goes to keep showing where we're at and how things are going. with that, World Polio Day is right around the corner. And so I'd like to ask Stephen to just show everybody real quickly where they can get some of the materials for the World Polio Day Toolkit. So Stephen?
Sounds
you're
good.
up.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to share my screen. So we have a wonderful, wonderful resource.
So one of the places you can go is, this is going well, is endpolio.org, which,
I've
and
got
of
it
course
pulled
now,
up. You want me to share it?
please, Scott, yes, because it's not showing up, it's not pulling up on mine now either, so.
All right, endpolio.org.
Yep.
Can you see that?
I can. So this is the main page. If you lost it there, Scott.
I'm sorry, I grabbed the
That's
wrong
okay.
thing.
We're doing
Try to
well.
grab something else.
Perfect. So if you scroll down, so this is the End Polio website that Rotary has put together, and there's a lot of great information here. But if you scroll down, World Polio Day, right here, which go down a little bit further. Oh yeah, yep. Click there on that World Polio Day, which then brings up this page, which download the World Polio Toolkit, has all sorts of different materials in there. So why don't you go ahead and download that real quick, Scott? It's going to open as a zip file for people.
I think I'm back, at least verbally, so I can take over if you'd like, Kyle.
Perfect. Have at it.
All right. So as Scott downloads that, thank you, Scott. If you wouldn't mind showing some of these items that are in here, there are a number of different resources available within this toolkit. Everything from PowerPoint to pre-made graphics, sample press releases, sample social media messages, and some PDFs on how to take action, and a little bit of a refresh on why we do World Polio Day and how individuals within your district can engage in it, and your club members can engage in it as well. So two of the first items are the two PDFs. Oh, by the way, on the brand center, there's also 3 videos for polio as well, at least 3 videos. So if you wanted to put together some video messaging around your World Polio Day and you were looking for a video, you can download those from the brand center. So the 2 PDFs, the Take Action, Eradicate a Disease Forever, are really helpful to give a brief overview, especially for new Rotarians or individuals outside of the Rotary network that may be attending an event specific to World Polio Day or a fundraiser around the event. And the second PDF, How to Take Action World Polio Day, gives some tips and pointers for how to host an event, write an event, share an event, and then perhaps having a viewing party or finding some information on how you can engage with an event. They also include event ideas within that document, which I thought was pretty helpful. If you are a club that's maybe a new club and you don't know what World Polio Day is, they provide information about that. The PowerPoints, if you're giving a presentation like the one that I had hoped to give today before my computer died, has some graphic templates that you can access and use, and the same thing with the JPEG imagery that is within that document. So if you don't want to create your own content, but you're looking for some ready-made content, the kit is a wonderful place to visit. The other thing I thought was quite interesting was the press release and the social media messaging. So as we are all trying to increase our social media presence, having pre-written content that you can schedule out through your social media channels just makes it very easy to stay on message without having to put a lot of effort. So with that, I will turn it back over to Kyle.
Stephen, I'll take it. Kyle, I'll jump in here.
Perfect.
The other things that are available for you here, and probably the most important thing that I would like for everybody to consider doing, is to use this register your event. So if you're planning an event for End Polio for October 24th for the End Polio Day, go ahead and schedule. Go ahead and click on this link. It'll take you to a page where you can fill out this form. put in your district number, what kind of an event it is and fundraiser. And what it'll do is it'll add this to the website here, and it'll put a push pin and will actually make an impression on everybody around the world that Rotary is making a difference to end polio and making a push on this day with different events throughout the world. So you'll be able to click on any one of these push pins and find an event. Get back over to the US here. So this one is in my district here. Cambridge, Nebraska is hosting an event. But if we were to go over to the Chicagoland area, here's one in Manor Park. There's another one underneath this that you can look at. But these events are publicized events that are going to be taking place to give recognition to the End Polio Now efforts that we're making as Rotarians. So again, back over here on this, make sure you fill this out, submit this, and you'll get your event publicized right here on the End Polio Now website. One thing I do want to mention, this is a little bit of self-promotion, but Terry Ziegler down in 25B down in the Houston area publishes a weekly polio eradication update. I take that information every week from Terry and I publish it on my own personal website or blog called ourrotarymojo.com. So in here, you can find not only the most current information that Terry has publicized, but you can go back for several years and look at things that have taken place on all of his different polio eradication updates. Additionally, in here, I've got links in here where you can click on some of the information that Bob McFarland was talking about with the Global Eradication Initiative. Takes you to this site. And in here, you can see some specifics about what's taking place with those wild polio cases, with the vaccine-derived polio, and everything that's going on in the world. So that is a very beneficial tool for you to go in one place to be able to see what's going on with the polio efforts. And there's a link there also to download that toolkit that Stephen was talking about. Kyle, I'll pass it back to you.
If I could comment just briefly, Scott, that's outstanding. I think Terry Ziegler's material is excellent, but it's wonderful to see what you've done to archive it and to make it available on a regular basis. That's terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. And I share this with everybody. It's available to anybody that wants to get in here each week when he publishes those stories. I actually take his website or take the information, put it on my website. So everything is on here every single week. So again, it's just under ourrotarymojo.com or rotarymojo.com. And when you get here, click on the polio eradication updates. Okay, Kyle, back to you.
Thanks, Scott. And so you see there's all sorts of information out there that you can utilize for your purposes. But I wanted to share very quickly here, because I know we're running a little bit long today, but I wanted to share the 5 easy tips for districts to engage clubs, or if you're a club leader, you could say clubs to engage members in terms of getting them thinking about World Polio Day. Number 1, very easily, work together. Don't do it just a public image team or just a Polio Plus team or a foundation team, but work together with public image, the Rotary Foundation, and Polio Plus teams coming together within your district, within your clubs, to create consistent, coordinated, and energetic messaging, because I think that's key. Also, appeal to the pride of Rotarians. You know, when you think about the fact that we're one of the founders of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative and really been the glue that has held the whole thing together for 35 years, and to see that we've gone from 350,000 cases annually down to 2 so far this year, if you're a Rotarian with a pulse, you should be proud of that. So how can you appeal to the pride of your members to say, hey, we've done such a good job and we need to finish the job? Using current resources so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've showed some of those resources and on the npolio.org site as well. There's at least 6 videos on that site, along with a link to Rotary's YouTube channel with another 25 polio videos that I played around with this weekend. So there's a lot out there, both in terms of just showing videos during the month of October for your clubs or your district, but also like Stephen showcased and Scott showed some of those resources as well. Something is better than nothing. You know, I think so many clubs get stuck going, well, if we can't do something up to certain expectations, criteria, whatever, let's just not do it. But doing something is better than doing nothing. And to encourage your clubs to do something, to put some event, even if it's just your weekly club meeting where you talk about polio for 5 minutes, put that on that website as an event. So, because it showcases to the world, as Scott said, the amount of people that care about this, and encouraging something, even if it's starting small, it can grow over time. And certainly share best practices. That's what we tried to do a little bit earlier with Melissa's segment, and what we'll continue to try to do. The more examples we can share of successful club events, the more ideas that clubs will have. And you know, Scott's resource there with his Our Rotary Mojo and some of the things that Terry Ziegler puts together, and some of the different fundraising ideas and things like that that really come into play, I think are beneficial from that perspective. So the more we can borrow ideas from each other and promote what your districts are doing, what your clubs are doing, what your members are doing, the more other people can get ideas then and move forward from there. So those are just 5 quick tips I would say to engage your clubs or members with everything related to World Polio Day. And funny, you can really say those appeal to just about anything in the Rotary world as well. This isn't rocket science. We do the same things over and over, just switch the name and promote it effectively and engage your members. That's the key. Resources available. We showed you the toolkit. Scott identified the Global Polio Eradication Initiative website too, with all sorts of detailed information if you want to keep up on how many cases of polio or when the last environmental sample in Afghanistan was. Things like that. That data is on that GPEI website. And certainly your End Polio Now coordinators, your foundation coordinators, your public image coordinators, and all the teams at the zone level are here to help. And certainly if you're in your club, there are people at your district level willing and able to help as well. So that's really all that we had for today. And I know we went a little bit long, but this was our first time doing this, so our apologies. And I'd like to open it up now. I'm gonna close the formal part of this, but as Sean and I practiced earlier, the registration is now open for next month's webinar, which is at 4 o'clock on October 28th, where we'll talk about how best to engage your clubs and districts in promoting Rotary Foundation Month and some of the tools out there for that in terms of the People of Action templates and the brand center on the Rotary website. So that'll be a deeper dive into that. You can click to register there, and we'll stay on for a few more minutes for any questions. And thank you all for being here. And as I said, we'll be sending a follow-up email with a lot of this information too. Suzanne asked a question about how to access the 25 videos. Suzanne, if you go to the End Polio Now, let me just share this because I think it's actually working on my screen here. Here's the End Polio Now web, or the endpolio.org website. And if you scroll down, and if you keep scrolling down, here are current stats and resource center towards the bottom. And if you click on that, it should open a resource center that so many people are on the endpolio.org website right now that it's just slow for everybody. But there are some videos on that page, and right underneath the videos, perfect. There's 6 videos that you can preview and you can download. And then right below that, additional video resources, and that takes you to the YouTube channel with all sorts of videos off to the side as well, different Rotary videos here. And in fact, it looks like there's, yeah, 23 or so of those. And some of them are a little bit outdated, but frankly, we used one at our club Rotary meeting yesterday from 2015 because the message was great, and followed it up with a little bit of a statistical update afterwards. And everybody appreciated it because, again, it was the message in the right way. So that's how to show that. Sorry, we went quickly through that, but if you need anything else, feel free to let me know. Otherwise on the chat, okay, plaudits, that's good. Anybody else have any questions that we should be touching on today at all? Or for any of our presenters, Kim is still here, Melissa's here, Bob is there, so is the other
Perhaps just
Bob.
one, I don't know that you'd mentioned the Rotary National President has a 2.5-minute clip on polio that's just came out last week, and that would make a great foundation minute for all clubs.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll send that as the afterwards. We'll send that link too.
Okay.
Cool. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for being here, and thanks for your
Thank you.
patience as we got a couple of the things ironed out. This is our first time through this, and they'll get better as we continue to try to promote everything public image wise and Rotary. And there's a 3-year-old. If you want to say goodbye, here, come here, come say goodbye. Okay, bye everybody.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the opportunity. Great job, folks. Take care.
Everyone.